Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to 12-Minute Trading. There's two of us again. Today is Monday, the 22nd of September, and markets are higher once again. It seems to be like almost every day we come along and we find the groundhog move where we start out a little bit lower. Like this morning, we had a little bit of a gap to the downside, and then that got erased pretty quickly. And so far, we are rocking to the upside once again. However, it's not the case with crypto. So we have gold and silver are running. Crypto is negative. Equities are higher today. Dave, what do you see going on? And where have you been the last 2 weeks?
Well, first, yeah, it's good to be back. I've been traipsing throughout Europe for almost a couple weeks there, right? So, and I gotta say, you out there, all you out there, you traders in Europe and stuff. I I now have a greater appreciation for just trading from that type of time zone, right? So I got pretty used to it and stuff while I was there, but it's interesting to be like 10 o'clock at night, still doing things. But um, just watching from afar, I mean, we are in that quiet and trending bull market mode. And, I think we got the obviously the big dip over in the spring for the year. And it's very much, kind of that just it's that just hungry bull market, it seems, right? There's a lot of money on the sidelines. 7 trillion last count I heard in money market accounts, and Fed's starting to cut rates. So that money is probably going to pull out of there and start moving into markets, things like that. So, I said this, I think, before I left. I thought, maybe there's a 3 to 5% correction in here somewhere. It's very short lived, but we run higher through the end of the year. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised to see 7,000 on the SPX by the end of the year. Just, I think the animal spirits are taking over for now, and it's that time, right? It will end poorly at some point. There'll be some nastiness that really comes in. No clue when that's ultimately going to be. The macro things continue to stack up, to the negative side, if you will. Things like loan delinquencies and all that stuff. But takes a long time for that stuff to finally rear its head. And so now we're into a Fed cutting cycle. Markets priced a lot of that in. The next 2 weeks I expect to be, fine, probably just sideways, soft. Probably don't, maybe not go anywhere in the end as we get through the end of the quarter. And then I think third quarter we rip higher. I think that's where we're at.
This reminds me so many times of if this was 20 years ago, I would probably have been placing bear call spreads and I would have been tuned into the bears like, hey, this is unsustainable. The easy money is to the downside. And then I would have gotten angry and
Mm-hmm.
frustrated and bitter and felt like there was somebody out to get me. In fact, what is that? The cynical skepticism phase of
Yeah, the
the
Bo Yoder
stages.
phases, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you don't trade what you see, you trade what you think should happen, and that never works out, right? That never works out. So I mean, with time, what we've done is we've just like let's just be stupid. I mean, the people that are making the most money right now, what's working in this market is just to be long
Yep.
assets, and it's kind of what we've been saying really since the end of spring is is look out because you got to be long assets because this is the way the things are going to work. And so we've had to change some of our strategies. We've had to simplify some. We've had to eliminate others. And it's just that's what trading is all about is trying to figure out what works. What is the edge the market is giving you? It's out there trying to tell you every single day. But the problem is most newer traders are not listening to that. They are more concerned with, following whomever they are following
Yeah.
and trying to, justify the case that they're right. So
Well, and
it's
the
just been a
the
simple
deep
market.
yeah, the default now, from people is it just can't keep going. We need to have a
Right.
correction. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to happen. I mean, like I think I said this before I left. I mean, you know, gold gold is kind of a warning sign in the sense that it's just showing how fast the dollar continues to lose its value. And so you look at gold today, ripping higher again. And we've got a weekly chart that's pretty exhausted on gold. So, can gold keep going? Sure, it can. I think it'll pause at some point, maybe just do like a bull flag, kind of like you remember what we just came out of. We talked about this for those that were with me throughout August when you were traveling. I like that giant flag that's set up for months on gold. We just may go into another one of those again, right? But it's just to me, it's again the dollar is losing more of its value more rapidly, and so that's reflected in the markets in gold and assets and all that stuff. And so that's what we're seeing. And I mean, we're continuing. I think I saw next year's projections maybe 2.7 trillion in deficit. So, I
Wow.
mean, it's just going to continue that acceleration. And so you got to be in things that have value, and things in value continue to go up. And that's why I said, the tough thing is that kind of bottom 80% is going to get further left behind because they don't have that ability to have the velocity of money to keep up with things. They don't have the investable assets per se that, the top 20% has. And that's why you continue to see that gap. And that's just the harsh reality of where we're at in the debt cycle of an empire, effectively.
One of the things that, and I talked about this, I believe, last week, last Monday, was that because of the fact that assets are inflating, so you've got triple digit stock values now. I mean, if you look at just about anything, of course, all the Mag 7,
Yeah.
if not four digit, approaching that way. And it's just leaving people behind. They can't afford to buy stocks. So they're buying partial shares, fractional shares of
Yeah.
things and stuff like that. One of the things that is still affordable is still the crypto ETFs.
Yeah.
So that is one nascent market that is starting to people are starting to understand, and we've been trading the options on them since last November, and
Right.
we've done extremely well with that. And it's relatively affordable. They have a lot of premium, and it's still something that people can trade. While the price is kind of running around 100,000 on the spot currency, like
Mhm.
IBIT itself is only running about $60 per share, and
Yep.
ETH-A is in the
Mm.
30s. So
30s.
yeah, so it's something that people can use if they don't have a whole lot of capital.
Yeah, and there's I think you're going to get into the next cycle of that at some point here. So
Yeah.
you're kind of in that consolidation period with these things, right? Kind of like what we saw in gold for a while. So, that's the next thing to kind of watch. So, I love selling against it. Like, look, everybody's a great trader in a, quiet and trending bull market.
Yeah.
I mean, you just sell puts, spreads, every week and, make money on them and stuff. So, like, we're in that time, so take advantage of it. Um, Typically the end of these is a parabolic tail where it just like it seems like it's never going to end and it accelerates even faster. So that's just a telltale sign to look for. But I think, again, we just continue to go higher through fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is always usually a positive quarter. You get a little, the softness is usually September and early October. So that's why I said maybe the next 2 weeks are a little soft. And at the end of the quarter, people take some profits off the table from a good quarter. And then it gets all started again. So it's it's a good time to be invested. There's a number of stocks that are really good. Like you can't explain some of the moves. Like look at Tesla over the last week and a half. I mean, you know, like yeah, Elon's back, all that stuff. But has Tesla all of a sudden, sold a ton more cars because they haven't been, they've been missing targets for the last, however many months, right? So you look at like there's just things are catching fire. Look at CrowdStrike last week. I've been selling put spreads on CrowdStrike for a while, but you look at the move in CrowdStrike in one day last week, it's insane. Like up like 50, 60 points in that one day. And that was off the Fed. I don't
Yeah.
know why, necessarily, but I think somebody came out with a higher price target or whatever the excuse was. But so there's a number of these that, if you kind of think about where to be invested, the market's kind of telling you, for the future, right? These are AI trades, CrowdStrike, obviously, from, everything they do is around security and data center stuff and everything. those are the places. Look at Oklo and watch that while I was traveling. Um, NNE and Oklo. Look at those nuclear stocks. These guys aren't making any money. Look at the last week in these guys. So trend's always your friend. Look for where the trends are at, guys. It may not make any sense, and it usually doesn't when you're, in this stage of a bull like this, and just take advantage. So there's a number of these. Look at NNE. I think NNE is still one that has a lot of room to run, like Oklo. So,
And
um,
I mean, it's still very affordable.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I was selling, I was selling down in the low 20s and high teens on this thing 3 weeks ago. So there's just a number of these out there, guys. Now, I've been seeing a lot on Grab as the next one to just take off. I have not done any research. I know nothing about the ticker on Grab. A lot of people are saying it's poised for this massive rally. But I need to do more research to even see what this thing's about. GRAB. But they're saying the big base, and it's ready to rock and roll to 15 or 16 and be a double. So yeah, there's a lot of MAME stuff going on out there. A lot of just, follow the sector trends. That's all I can say right now.
Well, these are relatively inexpensive options.
Yeah, I mean, buy like call spreads, or not call spreads, buy like just calls on it,
Hmm.
and just reap the benefits. I mean, it's been as high as 13 or 14, so it can go back there again.
And you know
Just it's
what?
just interesting.
What's interesting is we've had, some of the Mag 7 were starting to falter, I would say, like Apple. I wasn't sure,
Mhm.
like when we were in
Mhm.
July, I thought Apple was about to die, was about to,
Yeah.
because we'd gotten a death cross and it looked like it was setting up a lower high, and then boom, this thing is all of a sudden back up to the
I'll tell
all-time
you
highs.
one you made the call on last week, and I think you're right, and it's not really getting started yet is AMD. I think AMD has a lot of run room in it.
Yeah, what we did was I've been trying to get into AMD, and my thought process on this was okay. We have a weekly downtrend, came down here, and then around sometime in the spring it broke through here, and it went so fast that I could not allow myself to chase after it. So it was frustrating sitting on the sideline saying, I'm not going to do it. I am not going to chase after this because that's what I would have done back here, maybe 10 years ago. I would have chased after that and I'd be underwater right now. So I was waiting for a 38.2 pullback on the major swing, 38.2%, and it never got there. And then what I noticed was we've got this swing test, which is at 150, which is right there. And notice how former former resistance becomes new support when you
Mhm.
test it from above. Former resistance, new support. Former resistance, new support. So we saw this in the trading room the other day, and it said, "Hey, this thing's just bounced off of there. Let's go for it." So we sold puts down here at 125. So I'd be a committed buyer down here at 125. So this is going to be a very simple trade for the next few weeks, earning 1%, for that, and it's just easy money. It's like money laying on the ground you're just picking up. And please come down and assign me. I'd love to be assigned down there because
Mhm.
if you come down that far that fast, you're going to get a reaction off of there.
Yep.
And that's where you get into some capital gains and some fun stuff. So anyway, AMD is doing well. Palantir is just continuing to chug,
Mhm.
and it's leaving the land of affordability. We'll put it that way.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that's why I said there's a number of these things that are just, Duol's taking off again. Now that's one that's still a good DUOL. Duolingo's taking off again, and that thing got hammered down. And it's getting to a point where it's crossed back above 300, and I think it's poised to run higher again. So that's another one that really got beaten down. Um, there's there's a number of these that are out there, guys. And these are again, these are like the main ones. These are the ones that the people have been, following for a long time and, been everybody gets in, and there are groups about it and all that type of stuff. So,
All right. Yeah. Is there any questions from anybody checking in with us today? We appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us here. Let us know if there's anything you want us to look at, or if you are watching this on a replay, which is going to be most of you, let us know if you want us to look at something next week.
yeah, I think the big key thing right now, guys, is the pullback in crypto today. Like, if you've noticed, there's been this kind of trend where, like, on very low volume and everything on Sunday nights, where crypto gets hammered, like some big whales are selling out and taking advantage of, some of that movement capability in crypto. I think they're jumping back in. I think they're just selling and jumping back in. Maybe a few days later or something like that, because then it goes back up. But that's been kind of a trend we've been seeing in that. I know that you may know about this, Doc. I haven't, again, been traveling and stuff, so I've been trying to do my best to, keep in, tune, but have some fun while I was doing that. Something about they said like tomorrow, Tuesday has some big impact on crypto, some events happening or something tomorrow. I don't know what that is. But there's a lot of chatter about, after Tuesday, it's, uh, I don't know, something big with crypto,
There
but
is
I don't know if that has
there
anything to do with the selling.
there's so much of that going on in crypto. What you find in crypto is that there's so many people that are learning to cut their teeth. So if you think about the equity markets, people learn about the equity markets and options, and they spend decades on that trajectory, right? And so what's happened in crypto is people basically just started 2 years ago, and so
Yeah.
they're repeating history. They're going through all of that stuff all over again. Like oh, there's a gap with the CME futures, and the market's going to hate that gap, and the price is going to come down and fill that. Like, no, it's not. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like all these, they it's almost like religion that they're following,
Yeah.
and then they get all their in their Discord rooms, and then they spread this stuff, and it just that's what I found is the crypto market, especially technical analysis, very very immature.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the only
I
thing from a technical standpoint I see is it looks like a bull flag has been setting up for a while. That's the only thing that I, gleaned from looking at the charts on crypto overall.
well, this is I mean you're absolutely right. If you look at this on the weekly chart, this is just another flag setting up. Now there is a lower high here on the weekly chart. With that only becomes a problem if it actually takes out 107. But what's also happening on the daily chart is you've got potentially an inverted head and shoulders setting up here. So this is how markets move, right? Everybody chases after it here because it's making new highs and looks good and it feels safe, and then all of a sudden they get punished. And so now the bears jump on board and say, "Oh, we're gonna take this thing down to zero. Bitcoin's got no intrinsic value whatsoever." And you start to read about all those kind of things. So the negativity peaks up. At this point, everybody gets sad, and then they start to short, and then this is where the right shoulder forms, like this. The right shoulder forms, all those bears get squeezed out, and then here's your inverted head and shoulders with the measured move target pointing at about 130. So that would be 130 would be nice to get to in October.
Yeah, and I could see that with the way things typically set up for the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so again, this is one of those things that I think what I love about the ETFs, like ETH at $32 a share or whatever, and even IBIT, you can sell, you can do it on a monthly basis for 1% if you want. You can, if you don't want to trade so much, you can go out 4 to 6 months and you can sell, $10 below the price, sell it 55 or 50, and you're getting a nice return on your money. And if it comes down that far and you get put, hey, great, now you got the shares at that price, right?
Yeah.
It's, that's the one set of charts that really behave like the traditional market, from the old, right? From the old days and all this stuff. The sans coming in for and having the daily options expiration, which has changed the game a lot for the major ETFs and all that. But the one charts that really pattern traditionally well are the crypto charts.
Yeah.
And so, being able to wheel those things, I think that's one of the best. Those are a couple of the best charts to wheel on these days, for
Yeah,
sure.
I probably have too much weighting into them right now, and I'm going to be looking to take a little off the top if we do break out from this inverted head and shoulder. I'm going to just
Sure.
trim a little bit off, like tranche this thing into thirds. And I've already taken off 1/3 of my spot Bitcoin at a measured move target of 122, which we
Hmm.
got hit back in July, I believe it was.
Yep.
So almost to the tick, we got that. And it's one of the things that I've learned through going through all these cycles with crypto is that the downside comes so incredibly fast on these things. It's impossible to sell on the way down because you're just going
Yeah.
to drive it down. Um, so you've got to take profits on the way up, and they may account for silver and gold. That may account for a lot of
Hmm.
things that are super hot right now. I think it's going to be our ability to continue to scale out into strength, and then but save something for that last run. Now, if there's
Yeah.
something that we learned from the last couple of equity bull markets is we never did get a 2018 version of that. Like
You're right. Yeah, they're
2021,
truly parabolic.
2021, both of us were sitting there going, all right, we're close. This thing is starting to die out. The momentum's losing it, but there's probably going to be one more shot to the upside. Never showed
Yeah.
up.
No,
Never
we never
showed up.
got that. It just rolled
It
over.
just, yeah, just rolled over. And well, and that we all know why that happened, because the rates were going up, and inflation
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
bad.
but I don't be surprised, guys. I think things can run and go a lot longer than you think they can. They always do. You think
Hmm.
about where we're at in cycles of things. We're getting into Q4. Q4 is typically a good quarter. We talked about that earlier. If you're joining late, go back to the beginning and watch. But then what's next year? What is next year in terms of in terms of the political cycle?
Well,
What
it's
is next year?
midterms.
It's midterm election, right? So do politicians want the market to crash ahead of their elections, right? So,
Not everybody.
again, you kind of have that political side of pulling out the stops to make everything as good as possible, right? To get reelected, right? So, I mean, this thing can just keep rocking for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, nothing
Yeah,
seen.
any questions?
Yeah, nothing seen. So I think we're going to wrap for today. Appreciate you guys joining us, and it's been a good year so far. Let's keep it going. So hope to
Yep.
see you guys next Monday, same bat time, same bat place. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thanks,
Chalupa
guys.
Man. Thanks for checking in. See you guys. We'll see you next weekend or next next Monday. Bye now.
Next Monday. Yeah.